Everybody, welcome to Jazz Cats. This is another episode here Wednesday night, every Wednesday at 8 o'clock on Wjzz Cool Tv, the coolest station in the world. We bring you Jazz Cats, trying to showcase everything important and interesting, etc., in jazz culture around the world. So, I'm Roger Penzabene, the host of the show, and I thank everybody for being here, tuning in with us virtually. We appreciate you and we welcome your support. Tonight I have Richard. Richard, you're going to have to help me with your last name, man.
Wolfile.
Wolfile.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It wasn't that bad. I might have jacked it up still.
No.
And I'm a stickler because people do that to my name all the time. So I try to get it right. But everybody, we're here. I was late coming in the room because once again, you know, good help is hard to find. So we are shorthanded around here at nighttime. So we need some interns. So anybody that's got aspirations to be in the internet, radio, TV business, give me a call, get in touch with me, and maybe we can, get you together and get you down here to help. So right now I'm doing double, triple duty because the show has to go on. We always want to stick to the mission to complete our task and to be professional and all of that. So we do what we have to do around here, everybody. So that's why we appreciate you so much. But without further ado, Richard, we're going to get right into you. Yeah. Everybody, I know you're used to seeing musicians and different people like that, but it's more to it in the music business, in the jazz scene. Unlike any other, it's the people behind the scenes that make up the team, and everybody has a position to play. So nobody's left unnoticed or unsung. So everybody, Richard is here. I met Richard. He's the owner of an independent record store in Hamtramck, lo and behold. And it's old school. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's old school. And vinyl records went out of fashion, and only the hardcore audiophiles, connoisseurs who appreciate the LPs and the 45s, and then it's a lot of one-hit wonders and things that came out on 45 only.
And then the no-hit wonders as well.
Yeah. So Richard is here representing jazz tonight, even though he deals in all kind of music. He's here tonight for his part in jazz. He owns the record shop that has all kind of jazz albums, and I'm going to get off into that, tell a little bit how we met and things like that. But his expertise is a dealer of music, jazz in particular tonight. He's a musician. He's an engineer, sound man, so / producer.
Yeah.
And he knows about jazz. So he's here to have a conversation tonight about jazz. That's what we do here on Jazz Cats. So I welcome you here.
Thank you for that.
For showing up.
It was a lovely introduction as well.
Yeah, and everybody who's not familiar, I know people watch us from around the world. Hamtramck is a little suburb, hamlet, if you will, surrounded by Detroit. So, their big claim to fame is the Pope came to visit one time a few years back.
So did Kennedy.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
But Hamtramck is a cool little town. It goes through all these culture shifts itself, politically, socially, but it's what you would call, I would say, a mom and pop town.
Big time.
Meaning it's all the all the economics. It's probably, I would take a wild guess, 90% entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
Of all types. Retail, only a couple of corporations, I think, still there. So it's truly a small town vibe in Hamtramck. And it's one of the last few places that you can walk blocks literally shop to shop, store to store. Every time you come out of one store, it's another store right next door, a
Yep.
bar, a eatery, a bank, and you just do a lot of foot traffic. So you
Yeah.
park the car at this end, and then you walk and you come back to the other side of the street and do all your shopping, everything in one swoop. So that's what Hamtramck is. But your shop is there.
Still, I don't know how, but it's there.
Yeah, and so when I walked in, and I'm gonna try to describe this to everybody. First, you have to go. Richard is gonna give the address and everything so you can check it out if you're in the area for whatever reason. We have the Movement Festival this weekend in Detroit, so we have people coming in from all over the world as they do every year for Movement, and then they come back again in September for Detroit Jazz Festival, and that's when small business music dealers like Richard, they love that, right? Because that's everybody comes from out the country to get those hard to find albums and records to take back to wherever they live, and they all hope to get that deal on that rare album or whatever it is. It's like a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
So, but when I walked into your shop, lo and behold, on Wjzz Campo in Detroit. I mean Hamtramck. I'm sorry. I'm a Detroiter, so sometimes I just lump it all up. But yeah, when I walked in first, before I got in the shop, I appreciate old school stuff. I'm an old school kind of guy. I like the progression and the technology. It's useful, but it's something about the old things and the old way of doing things that appeal to me. It gives me a sense of security and memory and things like that, you know.
Nostalgia.
And it's like not a lot of time has went by in my lifetime that culture and technology has like transitioned with milestones in my lifetime, from politics to technological advances to the change of geography of Detroit and all that. So it's kind of weirds me out sometimes, but I'm appreciative now that I am a part of witnessing history, or in this case,
that you're even doing it here.
Right.
Right? You wouldn't have broadcasted like this 30 years ago.
Right.
So this is really beautiful.
Yeah, and
but you still have an old school approach, which I can see that as great.
Yeah, it like in this case, going into your shop was like going back in time.
Yeah.
And I want to tell the people about this. So before I'm walking, I come up off the street. Richard knows I'm coming. We talked a few times on the phone, but this is our first meeting. And before I can get into the shop, I'm checking out everything in the window.
Yeah.
And it's not prissy or nothing. It's like you just find something cool and you put it in the window.
Yep.
And it's an old shop, everybody. So it's got those large display windows that are kind of beige type, raised up off the ground. And so everything is kind of like at eye level.
Yeah.
And if you love swap meet type of things or man cave type of stuff, that's gonna catch your eye. So I'm spending a few minutes outside the shop just trying to see everything because it overwhelms your
the Victorian
senses.
dress in the corner.
Yeah, because you're trying to see it's big, little, smalls, as they say. It's all kind of stuff.
Little radios and stuff in there.
So then, after I do that, I walk into the store, and it's an old wood floor. It's been there 1,000 years, and it's got the old shelves and everything in there.
Well, I made all those.
Oh, okay, okay.
They look old, but I made them all.
Okay,
yeah.
well,
I can't afford to. That's the whole thing. Is I couldn't afford to buy new bins, so I had to make them. And it's my same ethos with music. When you mentioned the different hats that I wear with music, it's the same thing. I couldn't afford to have somebody build websites, so I got to learn to do that. I can't afford an engineer to record my band, so I got to learn to do it. So
it's necessity is the mother of
that's
invention.
it exactly.
So I get in, and it's the old wood floor, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking around again. You get in the shop and it's just like looking in the window. It's something on every wall, every corner. It's old, and and it's, you can tell when you walk in that this guy has to know where everything is, because there's no signs, there's no fancy signage or nothing. It's just a bunch of stuff, records and sound equipment, more or less, and a few little bric-a-brac, folk arts and collectibles and things like that. And then right off the top, I noticed this whole wall of 45s. Mm-hmm. And you don't see that anymore too much. You still, it's a few places that have the LPs, the albums, all that stuff. But you had an extensive collection of 45s. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, last time I remember a 45 is when I was a kid. We used to put a stack of them. Mm-hmm. You had to put that little disc in the center.
Yeah, and they drop down.
Yeah, so they could either play on the spindle or whatever, but they would drop down. You load in about 10, depending on how the quality of your stereo, 10 to 15 of them, and it would drop down one at a time until it was too high for the needle to play the record. And then somebody would, whoever was the DJ had to come and then flip them all over, or sort them, and had the next round, and it made that little sound, and it was crazy. But it takes you back, if you somebody of my age or older that remember those things. So just for a quick reference, real quick, before we move on, because I'm trying to paint the picture for
it's
them
beautiful
before we get to us. But how many do you happen to catalog in your head how many 45s you have there?
I got rid of a lot because I had a lot of doubles. Mm-hmm. But during COVID, that's when I went through and whittled down a lot of stuff because I just went in there by myself. At that time, I had about 100,000 45s just in the building, but on the walls, I probably about 40,000. That's about it. I whittled down a lot. I was selling them by the crates at flea markets and stuff during COVID just to get rid of them. So,
like what you call that?
300 in a crate.
Bulk buy. You get what you get for this price.
Sell a couple thousand of them for $100 or something.
Okay, cool. And when just before we get off into the story part, what is the average price point of your albums and 45s?
So on the walls that you saw, those are the under 5 45s. So those walls, and they're sorted, they're organized. Most of those are $1, $2.
Okay.
But then underneath the LP bins are the nicer 45s, 5 and up. Okay. So for DJs, rare collectors, that's where they're going to go into this deeper sort of bins. But folks that just come in and they're like, hey, I need this by Kool and the Gang. I need this by, Casey and the Sunshine. I'm going to see Casey and the Sunshine Band or whatever. Do you got, and it's like, okay,
Now, do you have any
those are
serious collectors or overseas collectors who deal with you and say, hey,
absolutely,
Richard, do you have this? And when you get this, let me know.
Yeah. There's a couple old doo-wop collectors out in the East Coast that they mail me lists that they're looking for. Few guys in England are the same way. They'll email like a list of records that they're looking for. People, there's somebody in Spain I deal with. Somebody in Switzerland. So it's
Now I'm just going.
People on the West Coast, East Coast.
Okay. I'm glad because I'm it's like everything else. You got to have a connection.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So I would think because wax records are not in vogue right now. I know it's a resurgence for vinyl on the LP, and those new reissues go for anywhere, I think, from like $25 to $50 retail. So I said that to say I assume this is more a labor of love for you than it is
big time
to make money.
Yeah, well, it depends. There's money with certain things. It just depends. And you sift through 1,000 records and you find one that's worth $100 or more. So it's there's a labor of love. Definitely, I deliberately buy anything I never heard of at this point, just because I'm interested to see what it's going to be.
Okay.
You think you heard it all, but then you didn't. You know, that's what it's for me. Where
Well, I know, like with the DJs of the past, let's say 30 years from when hip hop between hip hop and techno, they kind of made a market or
they kept it going with
for the sounds, taking samples and beats from
exactly, but also
existing music and mixing it up.
Yeah, and radio DJs too at that time, and a lot of club DJs were still doing vinyl and doing just exclusive vinyl pressings in the 90s and into the 2000s.
Because I happen to know a few top DJs. Sometimes in the past, records were kind of flops commercially, but then producers and DJs took those obscure records and took those beats and sounds and remixed them and turned them into big major hits.
And that's part of what we're also looking for with that stuff too, where it's the same kind of thing.
To be creative.
And you know, my friend from the UK, that he'll hit me up and because I kind of know what he DJs and his style, his sound, and he'll say, you know, do you got anything for me this week or whatever, and he'll just call me up every few weeks and you know, so I can throw stuff at him that maybe he's never heard, that when he plays it out, a couple of his friends will go, oh, what's that, you know, and if I can get a couple more copies of it, then I can get a sale or something. But yeah, so it's a little bit of everything. It's like introductory DJs that want to just get into it, people that just want to collect. I got one guy that comes in, he's so sweet. He just comes in looking for records that his ma had, you know. He'll come in with a little list. He goes, I remember she had this. Like, do you have those? I'm like, yeah, I do. He'll come every few weeks.
That's what I'm saying. That's cool. People reliving memories. I keep looking at
new ones too, you know?
Yeah, it's cool. So, I keep looking at the clock because I had to take a station ID. So everybody, you're watching Jazz Cats on Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. We come to you live through Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and all top social media outlets every Wednesday at 8 p.m., bringing you everything that you can imagine in jazz culture. We really appreciate your support, and we welcome it and need it. So please like, follow, share, subscribe, call up a friend. If you need records, you want to get a connection for old plug for music, Lo and Behold Records in Hamtramck with Richard here. But, you know, like us, follow us. I can't express that enough. We want to keep this thing going, and the only way we can do it is with your support. We're independent business. And, you know, we're trying to just keep this train rolling. And we want your comments, your criticisms, your opinions. Everything is welcome here. And so just keep us in mind. And thanks for tuning in. And Richard Wolfeld. Did I say it right?
Yes, sir.
That's our guest tonight, everybody, from Lo and Behold Records in Hamtramck, Michigan. He's a dealer in collectible music.
That's right.
And we're going to get into how we met and more specific of why you're here today, jazz related. So the reason a friend said, hey, you got to call Richard in Hamtramck because he's the guy that bought WJZZ's library. So for those of you who don't know, WJZZ Detroit Jazz Radio is an iconic jazz radio station it's the oldest jazz station in the world, and it was #1 for decades in the Arbitron ratings. And jazz and blues music went out of favor to other genres of music, and it started getting low ratings and things to a big corporation. It was a family-owned independent company, and a big corporation bought it out, and they did what corporations do, and it went off the air approximately around '96. I acquired it and put it back on as an internet station, trying to be progressive, but it's such an iconic station, and they had this vast jazz library because it was the #1 jazz station in the world, everybody. So keep this in mind. Before Sirius and satellite and internet and all of this, it was only a few jazz stations on the radio, and WJZZ Detroit was #1. King. Like
legendary.
Legendary. You ask any jazz artist of over 40, and they're going to have some connection to WJZZ Detroit. So anyway, that it was a mystery of what happened to that music, to that library. And so when I heard that you had it, I said, well, I gotta meet this guy because people always assume I have it.
Yeah.
And no, I don't.
And I don't have it anymore.
Yeah. So, but I didn't know that at the time.
That's
so
right.
anyway, I called Richard up, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm the guy." And I don't. Same thing. I only have bits and pieces.
Same.
But you're welcome to come and talk and whatever, meet. So I said, yeah, okay, cool. So got in there, and right off the top, you greeted me, and he gave me a gift, everybody, and it was a album, a jazz album, a Ramsey Lewis promo copy of Sun Goddess, which is a jazz classic, and it had the program schedule and notes still in the sleeve of the and he was explaining to me, which I didn't know, the rotation dates and how many times they played.
It was a chart essentially, and you'd put the date and put what song you played and and fill in the date.
And so I appreciated that gift and the history that came with it. And so right off the top, me and Richard kind of clicked, and I started asking him about his, how he acquired it. And go ahead, you can tell that little story.
Well, first, before we begin, I just want to acknowledge you for resuscitating this legendary station.
Thank you.
Because it's so beautiful. It's a point of reverence and sadness when you talk about the old JZZ days and you go, oh man, it's like, oh, too bad they're not still on the air. But now here, lo and behold, here we are. So I want to acknowledge you for that, and I also want to just acknowledge JZZ because my shop wouldn't be here, probably wouldn't have lasted this long without that collection. That helped. That was the first big collection I was able to acquire that really just helped the shop pay bills. And I never had a startup loan or anything like that. You start a business, you get an investor, sometimes startup loans, other kinds of things. I had nothing like that, and I was able to. At the suggestion of the woman that was selling it, her sister, actually, her name was Renee, and she had a sister named Laura. And Laura suggested that she sells the collection to me because nobody else would bite on it, for the amount they were asking and whatever else. And we worked out a deal. And so I was able to sell a few things and then pay it off little by little, and then also pay bills and, just get the space going. Buy wood to build bins. Because when I got the collection in, it was just stacks of crates all over the room, There was nothing in there. It was kind of a raw space. So I just started the space to try to sell my own stuff, and then I was going to be gone after a few months because I thought I would, I didn't expect it to last or stick around or for the neighborhood to get as involved as they did with the space or local bands and things like that. So, yeah, I'm derailing. I'm sorry.
No.
Bring me back in.
It's good. So you were just saying how that collection, that WJZZ library.
Oh yeah.
Helped spark your business beyond your expectations.
Big time.
That it turned
Big
into.
Time. I'm indebted to JZZ because of it.
And I appreciate that, even though by default, so to speak, but it's all tied in to the fate of jazz culture.
Absolutely.
But, so I appreciate that. But I more appreciate your knowledge and your love for jazz music. And then, I want you to tell us about yourself and your background.
Yeah.
Well,
I was just a kid like anybody else, discovering music, trying to get into stuff, figuring out what I liked or didn't like. I was already record collecting. I was buying and selling records as a teenager because when my friends were getting CDs and stuff like that, I couldn't afford them. So I'd mow a couple lawns and buy a crate of records at a garage sale. One of my grandmothers, my Mimi rather, she gifted me a record player and invited me to take whatever I wanted out of her basement. And that was the start of my music collection. And then my other grandma, she spends a lot of time thrifting, junking, that kind of stuff. So I'd go out with her, go stay at her house at night, mow her neighbor's grass, make a few bucks. Then we go hit the flea markets. So, you know, I'd buy boxes full of stuff, and whatever I didn't want, I'd bring to record shops, trade it in for stuff I did want.
Yeah.
That's how that started. And then along the way, you know, inevitably it's like, well, you know, what's all this jazz people talk about? What's the deal with that? And the foundation for me in that was I used to go to this record store in Ann Arbor. It was called PJ's Used Records. An incredible store, tiny store. And the funny thing is all my record collector friends of the back then would scoff at the place because it was so small and kind of like they'd be like, they don't have anything up there. And I'm like, no, they really do. You just don't know how to dig. And because they had these little quirks, like where if you looked in the bin for something that wasn't there, chances are it was on the wall, like cataloged.
Okay.
But nobody thought to do that, you know. No, so they just go in and go, oh, they don't have that here, but there's 2 copies on the wall. They've been there for 15 years and they're cheap as heck, you know. So anyway, but the 2 guys that ran that, one of them, they're the Terrace brothers. Here's another tie into Detroit, by the way, because it was PJ's Used Records. It's the same PJ from PJ's Lager House in Corktown, but his buddies ran it. He was essentially the guy that helped them get it started.
Okay.
But he wasn't really involved. He just helped them start it, and then they named it after him.
Okay.
From what I understand.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the brothers was Mark Terrace, who had a Latin jazz radio show in, I think, Ypsilanti, 89.1 or one of those stations, 89.9. I can't remember now. Back then, I was, you know, I'd tune into it. And I'm like, wait, that's the guy from the radio, you know. And so I was like, oh, he knows about jazz. I'll ask him. So, you know, I asked him, you know, I want to get into jazz. I don't know anything about it. I was what, 17 or something. I was a kid. I don't know. And he's like, well, what kind of stuff do you like? And I kind of mentioned I like some more exploratory kind of wilder sounds. And I also like stuff that was soulful or kind of, you know, I don't know. I didn't really know where to go. I was like, I like soul music and stuff. And I like experimental rock and roll. So he gave me 2 records. He gave me an Ornette Coleman album, which to this day I'm like, oh my God. It was The Shape of Jazz to Come.
Okay.
And but then he also gave me Live at the Club, Cannonball Adderley.
Okay.
So it was great. That was the straight ahead, like or soul record, right? And then the avant-garde, the far out one. So those started my paths, you know, the trajectory rather. And fast forward a few years, I'm doing getting sound gigs, you know, and start off hauling speakers, doing little things like that. But then it's like, oh, you know, they're starting up this club down in Detroit, and like they don't have anybody to work sound, and you know, and it was Cliff Bell's. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I was a kid as well, you know, in my early 20s or whatever. I would get thrown in there, mid-20s, early 20s. Get thrown in there, I don't know what the hell, you know. And then I'm meeting guys like George Davison or Rod Hicks, these like Detroit legends, you know, and I had no idea. I was just a kid. Yeah. But digging it along the way and kind of studying with these guys, learning. Sometimes mess around musically with them a little bit. Sometimes just, you know, gleaning knowledge, gleaning history. And, you know, that's just the thread that's still here to this day, you know. So now it's like, you know, you find a letterhead piece of paper with like, you're like, oh man, you know, and you get all this, so-and-so ran this club from, you know, to this point. And then it's, so it's.
For you all that don't know, Cliff Bell is one of the jazz clubs, premier jazz club here in Detroit. Yeah. And it's been, it's an Art Deco interior, so it's been in a lot of movies, especially like gangster movies and movies that they want that Art Deco look. So you can find it in a lot of movies. If you just say Cliff Bell and do a Google search, you can Cliff Bell in the movies. How many movies has it been in? It'll tell you.
Oh, it's like a time capsule in that place, you know. Yeah. So you know, I cut my teeth there. Alvin's around that time too. Alvin's reopened for a little while. I was at Northern Lights off and on, just doing sound. So, you know, I was meeting these guys.
So you were around all the jazz and blues guys.
Yeah, but then before you know it, I'm like heading over to the locker room just to like watch who's jamming or whatever, and you know, or going over to the Carpet House to just hang out. And so, you know, I was just a kid digging the music and learning history, and it's it's been beautiful, and it still is. You know,
Yeah.
I tried to bring a guest tonight too, but I don't know if you forgot or what, but
Julie?
no, no. You know who stopped by twice last week was this guy named Andrew Gibson. He was the drummer for the Counts.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. He couldn't make it.
He said he was gonna come by, but then I didn't see him. I waited for him, but I didn't see him.
Yeah, well,
so.
we'll get him on the next one.
Oh, he'll do it.
This is like
he seemed excited about it.
Yeah, this is like a hangout. And you mentioned the Carpet House. This is the neighborhood. The Carpet House is right.
It's a block away.
Yeah. So, it's a lot
do
of
folks
history.
know about that? That'd be a fun broadcast.
Yeah. We have some blues shows.
Okay.
And they talk about it, and we're gonna be making a lot of different announcements. Some stuff we have going on when you talk about jams and things.
Yeah.
But and we share that history. You say just a kid around all these legendary jazz cats.
Was it like that for you?
Yeah. Well, my mother had a very popular jazz club in the 70s, and from the early 70s, like 73 until 80.
Okay.
And
which one? What was it?
The Jazz West, right next door to Watts Mozambique.
Wow.
Icon Club.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't appreciate it at the time.
Of course.
But I have memories of like Lonnie Liston Smith teaching me about the kalimba and other African instruments. Arthur Price Sock, Oscar Peterson, Nancy Wilson. I used to have a crush on Frida Payne and Nancy Wilson.
Oh my gosh.
Because of how beautiful they were, but how like feminine and classy they were.
Totally.
And so it always stood out in my head, even when I was a kid. They were distinguished from the average lady.
Totally.
Woman. And all the music around George Benson, Yusef Lateef, all those types of people used to pass through there. Even blues people, because it operated through the night. It didn't open until midnight, and then it stayed open till like 6 in the morning. So all the musicians and all the factory workers back then, everybody had a factory job in Detroit.
Right.
And then all the street hustlers.
Yep.
So everybody converged at these locations and had food and music through the night.
Yeah.
And so I just remember like music all night.
Oh,
and
man.
the music never stopped. Even in my home, my mother constantly had parties and some type of music going, and all these celebrity people. And anyway, so we shared that.
Yeah.
I was kind of a fish out of water.
Yeah,
and
same.
Didn't really appreciate it then.
I did appreciate it, but I didn't. But it was
you were
new.
a little older. You were a teenager.
Yeah.
I was at this time. I probably was between, I guess, starting out 6. And maybe it went
so
on
you're really
till
young.
I was 13 or so.
Yeah.
You know, and then my whole mindset changed, and I'm like, I'm out of here.
Yep.
But yeah. So looking back on it now, though, I see the blessing of it, and I can call on those lessons and memories and things that were instilled in me. And all music, I think, most music has that effect on people. But for me, it's something about jazz that, like, once it gets in you, it kind of possesses you.
Yeah.
If you get converted, you never grow out of it.
Totally.
Like I've grown, I got into new wave.
Yeah.
I got into disco.
Yeah.
I got into metal. I got into funk.
Same.
And then
I love everything.
Yeah, but then I kind of grow out of it.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm too old for this, you know. But the best way I can describe jazz, and Miles Davis kind of summed it up for me, and I can't find a better description. I saw an old interview, and they asked him, you know, he went to Juilliard and all that, and like, why jazz? Why do you play jazz? Why do you like jazz?
Yeah.
He said, because it's cool.
Yeah.
It's
totally cool.
And I can't think of a better way to describe it. It's just cool. And it seems like the more mature and mellow I get as a man, and the people I see and know and come into contact with, who I've evolved and see them evolve.
Yeah.
We all got cooler.
Yeah.
We all cooled out.
Totally.
Slowed down.
Totally.
Quieted down.
Yeah.
And got a little more polished, a little more sophisticated.
Refined.
And I think what I try to tell young people, and I think it's a prescription. Jazz, above all other music, is timeless.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of organic because...
That's a good word for it. Yeah. Continue.
No, you can jump in anytime. It's
organic's a great word, though.
Yeah, because it seems like...
It's growing out of the earth almost.
Right.
It's like...
and out of you.
Yeah, I know. It's
you
totally...
put on the album.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure listening to that Ornette Coleman album now is a different experience.
Totally.
Sonically.
Totally.
And emotionally than when you first put it
Totally. But it still does something. And so when he starts crying with the saxophone on that record, it still hits me in like a... Because I never heard anything like that. I remember the way the room was too.
Yeah.
When I put that thing on, I like had the lights off, and the record had a little warp to it, so the light from the little record player is like bouncing off the wall and just like,
and every take another station ID. We have to do that, everybody, because I have to come and engage you, the public, and we can't express how dear you all are. Hopefully, you watch shows like this. This one in particular, you like it, you follow it, you share, you subscribe, you meet somebody, you get introduced to a guy like Richard, and you need or want what he has, you go see his shop, you meet him, you created a friendship like I have in blossoming with him, and we all get connected somewhere like that. So please continue to support us. Thank you for watching us. And I need to know from you, what do you want to hear? What do you want to see?
Yeah.
Is it anything you heard on this show that you need? Maybe it's referral. If you need his address, you need his phone number, you missed it. We play back on demand, so if you're working and you got to pop in and out, just relax. You can come back and chill out and watch it at your leisure on demand. So thank you for watching Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest station in the world, digging on Jazz Cats every Wednesday at 8. And we're here with Richard Woolfield from Lo and Behold Records in Hamtramck, Michigan on Joscampo Street. Give it right now, give him your contact information.
It's 10022 Joseph Campo. And that's it's right. Easiest mile marker is across the street from Jet's Pizza.
Okay, and what about the email and website? All that
there is a website. It's WLNB.org or net. Oh man, I haven't looked at it in a long time. .org, I think. WLNB, which was so I've been working on my own radio station for like a year. Okay. Slowly, I haven't really promoted it though, but I've been just getting content up there, recording a lot of 45s for it. Hence the WLNB, Lo and Behold.
Yeah, you need to get over here with us. We'll help you out.
That'd be great.
But and here it's Lo, L-O.
Yeah.
Lo and Behold.
Like look and see.
Sign.
Yeah.
So there you go. So check him out.
Like Lo.
And tell him you saw him and you got hip to him on Jazz Cats right here. So
and you know any mention of WJZZ in that place, I'll give you at least 20% off. Like,
there you go.
How about that?
We got the connection.
He's got the connect. Come on,
so,
you know.
So and getting back to our conversation, man. I don't want to get stuck on jazz because we'll start.
It's great though.
Just having a conversation amongst us. You told me a lot of cool stuff. Like you told me you being in that shop. You ended up meeting the guy who invented the direct.
That came from doing sound and other things, and he did come by a few times. But and I met him through Dennis Coffey. Okay. So through doing sound for Dennis Coffey, it all just everything.
And what's the name of the device again?
Oh, the direct box. Yeah.
The direct box.
You're probably using them around here.
Yeah. I know all the musicians use them, and you told me about all these different.
His name was Ed Wolfram.
Okay, Ed Wolfram. All these old musicians you told me about. Like name a few of the cats that came and hang out with you.
Well, I guess the lineage start. Well, I mentioned Mr. Gibson. He's been coming by a lot lately, which has been really great because I didn't see him in a while. So I didn't, some of these older guys, you're like, oh man, I hope he's still around. Like what the hell, But he's been coming in lately, and so I'm happy to see him. Mr. Robert Jones comes by a bunch. His wife works at the laundromat down the street. Okay. So all these guys played with each other back in the '70s. So.
And what's some of the groups?
Oh yeah, Mr. Gibson's with the Fabulous Counts. He played on Spider Turner records and stuff like that. He's on a bunch of 45s. He wrote the song Belle Isle that Wendell Harrison put on one of his albums. Okay. So it's all this, and then through the jazz stuff, it's like doing sound for Wendell, getting to learn about his history, and for me, it's like this city is so incredible. It's just so incredible. It's like I can travel to other cities and really get into their histories, but not like I can here.
And I tell everybody that. Yeah. That's why I am. I rep Detroit to the fullest.
Oh, it's the best.
I am Detroit through and through, bones, blood, sweat, tears, and I do brag on this city because I am proud to be a native, born and raised here at Ford Hospital.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a transplant. I'm not from one of the outside the borders. No, I'm here, grassroots Detroit, good, bad, ugly, and otherwise. I rep this city, and I do business all over the world. But like you just said, you have to come here and hang out with us to know. So everybody has their groove. Yep. New York has its groove. Chicago. Kansas, everybody, but we have a Detroit thing.
Oh yeah.
And you guys won't ever know it, and it's way bigger than Motown. We love
way
Motown, but it's way Motown is the tourist thing.
Totally,
it's the tourist thing.
Totally.
Like I have it,
but it's great. I love it.
Right.
But nobody talks about United Sound right around the corner.
Right.
Nobody talks about that.
So I'm just now starting to understand the significance and the importance of myself and other natives to support and talk about these institutions and these tourist traps. But you guys have to understand, for us, it's every day, but we experience the whole city. And I'm sure you feel the same way about wherever you're at and where you're from. But I can tell you this, I guarantee you, and you know somebody from Detroit or who has crossed through here enough to know this is a place to itself. It's a place to itself, especially culture-wise.
Yeah.
So if you ever get to come here, if you have some relatives that you can shack up with for at least a couple of weeks,
do it
during the summertime.
Go to Belle Isle.
Come on and hang out.
Cruise around Jefferson,
like just
Richard,
and hit the spots.
Totally.
We'll take you to the tourist places, but we're gonna take you to some other spots too. So it is safe, everybody. Don't believe the hype.
That's another thing too, man. It's like
they're just jealous. That's why they hate on us.
They didn't know where to go. That's all it was.
Yeah, and we have our troubles like everybody else.
Totally.
But it's not where you're from. It's where you at. Connected to where you're from, and meaning in your head, in your mental space, and how you move. So we got you when you come here. Go to Lo and Behold, get Richard. Call me. You find me here at the station. Yeah. And we'll get you together.
Yeah.
But man, we got a few minutes, man.
Yeah.
I always give the guests some time to talk about yourself. What makes you a jazz cat?
Well, I play jazz. Okay. I was in a group for a few years called Other Voices. It was more avant-garde, experimental, but and I record some minimal keyboard music and stuff myself. And then I also record breakbeats and jazz drumming for producers and stuff. Okay. So I do some of that. So so currently I'm a one-man jazz band where it's just jazz drums. That's it.
Okay.
But our group was pretty good for a little while, and and I sit in here and there with friends and do more like experimental jazz. The more free sort of avant-garde or out there kind of stuff. But So that's part of it too. I do want to play more straight ahead though. I've always wanted to start or play in a group that was like real hip, like like when you hear like that Boogaloo era jazz, like mid '60s Lou Donaldson, like the really just real groovy stuff you could dance to. Because whenever I go to a jazz club, sometimes it's hit or miss, and I've been to too many gigs where it's a lot of guys just trying to outplay each other, but I'm like, wow, whoa, where's the party though? Where's the real party jazz like that we used to have? Like when I hear like Live at the Club by Cannonball Adderley, it's like that's a party. Mm-hmm. Like I want to be at that party. Like, so So maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe this summer we'd put together a group like that.
Yeah, and we had the space across the street.
Yeah.
Got a big 20 by 20 stage. You can get a jam session on there.
That'd be fun.
You're welcome here anytime. We'll get you together with your radio station. Help you work the bugs out, or just say, hey, here's some mics and stuff.
And I apologize for me. It's like tough to talk about me because I feel like what I do is not as interesting as the stuff I like. The stuff I'm into is just more, like even just like records or
Well, that's cool. That's
or
part
history.
That's part of you.
Yeah.
And
I just love it.
Everybody, Richard and I have been talking about doing this thing that's new to me called the record swap.
Oh yeah.
And it's about enthusiasts for, in our case, jazz, and if it's successful, we're gonna do it probably with all kind of other music. But it's a bunch of people. You haul all your stuff, your paraphernalia, your albums, blah blah blah, and you swap and sell it with other collectors.
It's like going to Gibraltar, gun a knife show or something, but just records, It's like, it's the same kind of thing.
So we're gonna do that soon.
We'll put something in the works.
And we're gonna make an announcement.
That'll be great.
Come back here and talk about it. But we want to like round everybody up. I do this thing called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Okay.
Building a jazz community.
Yes.
So it's a play on Mr. Rogers.
Obviously.
And him getting everybody together. And I just do the jazz version of it.
That's great.
But man, I'm looking at the clock here. We got about 3 minutes, and we kind of just got into our own conversation.
Yeah.
And everybody forgive me because I'm working solo here tonight. I have to walk out of here and engineer myself, but that's what you have to do when you're independent, trying to level up. And
that's right.
If somebody goes down, and Uncle Sam taught me that. I'm an honorable vet. So big shouts out. Memorial Day is coming up.
That's what you know what, these shout outs, it's you got a real inspirational vibe here with your you remind me of Martha Jean, the Queen.
Oh, okay.
Like how she could just empower you. You're just happy hearing her. Yeah. Like I feel overjoyed just being here, just being in the presence of this. It's
Thank you, man. Hey, I didn't.
No, really.
I appreciate it.
And the shout outs to the vets, the shout outs to the independent businesses like in Hamtramck.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging people for who they are and what they're doing right now.
And we want this to be a fun show.
Oh,
the same way Richard and I, it's unpretentious. I wear suits a lot, but sometimes I just want to come in and have a shirt and some slacks, and that's what makes it cool, everybody. That's why it's cool. Don't you get it? That's why it's cool. Get hip. Turn on some jazz. If you never listened to jazz before, I'm not even going to advise who to listen to. Just let fate decide.
That's beautiful.
And say jazz, and then pick out who you want, and then maybe dedicate 10 minutes and just flip through randomly and see if something grabs you. And then, I want to hear back how many of you say, oh, that's not so bad. But I guarantee you, young people, it's not grandpa's and grandpa's music. It's cool folks' music. If you want to be cool, become a jazz cat. So with that, we're going to get ready to say goodnight. But I'm going to thank you, Richard Wofield, once again.
Yes, sir. Thank
you.
Tell
them how to come find the shop.
I'm over at Lo and Behold Records and Books. It's 10022 Joseph Campo in Hamtramck.
Hamtramck, Michigan.
That's right.
And for anybody overseas or out of town, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, if they're online, WLMB.org. I think it's .org. I run labels too, record labels. Yeah. Lo and Behold is a label, but there's also the MDMCC label. There's the Folk Blues Night label. It's all traditional music. Just look up Lo and Behold Detroit, and you can if you just look that up, you can text that number, and I'll probably get it.
Yeah. And if all else fails, contact me at WJZZ Detroit. Radio.com is the website, or WJZZradio@gmail.com. That's our general mailbox. So, or you could inbox me some kind of way, contact me, and if that's the only way to connect you to Richard, I will.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Man, thank you.
And JZZ, like I said, my shop wouldn't be around without it. And so just being able to sit here and watch it be rebirthed is just gorgeous.
So I appreciate that. So I need you
Yeah.
to do me a favor while I go and close out the show.
Station ID?
And you go
Oh.
ahead and talk to the people until I come back. Talk to them about whatever you want in the show. Good night, everybody.
Well, thank you for tuning in tonight. You're watching WJZZ Live, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Like, follow, share, and comment, and subscribe. We wouldn't be here without you. It's honestly an honor. And I don't know who this connected to tonight, even if it's just one person. If it's one person it makes a difference to, then, it was all worth it.